This episode is sponsored by Bigger City. Thank you so much for supporting us and helping our show to grow.
Hello and welcome back to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we like to talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. My name's Don. I'm a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood, and today I am so happy to be here. I'm so excited to see all of you that I could absolutely absquatulate right now.
Oh dear.
Oh, geez.
Oh dear. Oh dear. So sorry. Thank you for playing our vocabulary game.
Wait, so Dan, can you use this word without spoiling it for Trevor and I, for Trevor and me, so we can...
You mean use it incorrectly?
Yes, exactly.
I think Don did a really good job.
Don't give it away.
Hi, my name is Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser. And I don't know what to do because I know the word. So what do you want me to do with the word?
Just pass it on to Trevor.
Okay.
You are replete with absquatulation.
No.
All right, Trevor.
We will leave looking the word up as an exercise for the listener.
No, I need to know. Trevor.
I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub. And I don't know, I'm here in West Hollywood and I don't plan to absquatulate anytime soon.
I'm very proud of you for getting that right.
Oh, you do know.
No. No, I meant the pronunciation of the word.
Oh, now comes the real test, Michael.
Hi, my name is Michael Willer. I am a chubby chaser, and much like Trevor, I also don't plan to absquatulate. There you go. You give it away, Dan.
Oh, dear. To absquatulate. It is an odd portmanteau sort of blending from the late 19th century, meaning to leave suddenly.
Oh.
So both you and Trevor used it correctly.
I'm gone.
And there he goes, he's absquatulating.
I'm back again.
Well, welcome back. We've got a big old show packed for you with lots of stuff. Why don't we just move straight on into the news?
No. But first.
Sorry, I don't have my schedule up in
But
front of me.
first, there's more.
Yeah, I don't know. Thank you as always to our patrons and just, I don't know, non-patrons, listeners, everyone. We have... as always, our cutting room floor, exciting behind the scenes videos that we just recorded. A very funny story.
And later today, I'm very excited.
Yes.
I think we can tease. Trevor's going to do a Moo fashion show.
Yes.
Behind the scenes, exclusive on Patreon only. If you want to see that, well, you got to pay us money.
When we were at Club Chub, he picked himself up 3, not 2, not 1, but 3 moo-moos.
Moo-moos, caftans,
Executive dashikis.
Drapey things, all the fashion you can handle in your life, people.
And then Don and I are going to be doing the next mini-sode. Did we settle on a topic?
No, it's a topic TBD.
Okay, all right.
But
We'll figure it out.
If you want to suggest a topic for the two of us,
Oh,
write
yeah.
it now.
I suppose we could take suggestions. That would be kind of fun. Maybe we should put a poll on Patreon. Anyway, so it's going to be me and Don doing the next mini-sode. That'll go up on Patreon within the next month. I suppose July. We can just say July.
Yeah, well, this is
coming out in
this
July.
is coming out in July.
Oh, my God.
Happy July.
It's so far ahead.
This has got to stop, gentlemen. Got to stop.
Well,
so far behind.
Can we tease this that we will have a more normal
Yeah, I
release?
think so. I feel confident. Yeah.
Our schedule is going to resume to 4 episodes a month starting in August. So
Yeah.
Catch up, people. I know there's some of you who are always like, oh, I'm behind. You got to catch up. You got to
It's happening.
organize.
And by the way, 4 a month is 1 a week for the math impaired.
Yes. Except for the one random month that has 5 Wednesdays
Yeah.
somehow. Okay, so that's all of that stuff. Thank you very much.
Hit that beautiful button, Michael.
Let's do it. La 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 la. I've got my little piano, and I'm hitting each key with my index finger.
I would have contributed more, but I was on trumpet.
Oh,
Which means without the trumpet, it sounds like...
all right. We have a very fun one to start the day off.
Yes.
We got some multimedia to play around with.
Ooh.
Yes.
There's a movie for which there is a trailer out right now called the movie called Your Fat Friend, a film
Yes.
by Jeannie Finlay, starring.
The original fat friend, Aubrey Gordon.
That is to say, Aubrey Gordon had a column, am I right?
Yes, which we featured regularly. And then Aubrey unmasked herself as your fat friend. If you don't remember our features on Your Fat Friend, Aubrey Gordon also has 2 wonderful books. She's the host of Maintenance Phase with Michael Hobbs,
Which is a podcast.
Yes, and now the star of a documentary, which we've all seen the trailer, but we're gonna watch it again right now.
I'm gonna live react.
Yes. I mean, I don't think we're gonna. We're not gonna make you sit through the whole 2 minutes of us watching, but let's check it out.
Just say fat. Not curvy or chubby or chunky or fluffy or more to love or big guy or husky or obese or overweight. Just say fat.
The very first piece was called A Request from Your Fat Friend.
And like 30,000 people read it in a week. And I was like, whoa, okay.
My aim is to provoke people to question ideas that we've held on to for so long.
The strongest bonding amongst women happens when people are talking about how much they hate their bodies.
Oh, God.
I had a woman take a melon out of my cart, and she went, "It's got too much sugar for you." It's a melon.
The wellness industry is worth $4.5 trillion.
This is like big tobacco levels of just lying to people. It's like they're trying to pull some Jedi mind trick. It's not a diet.
So the next video on YouTube is the Lord of the Rings expert answering questions. I'm so excited about this movie.
Yeah, it looks great.
There was already a screening that was co-hosted. It was Aubrey Gordon and Tigris Osborne of NAFA last month.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
In case it wasn't clear, by the way, this is a documentary.
Yes.
I don't think we've said that.
It is a documentary about Aubrey Gordon and kind of looking at her. I think it's when she was releasing the book and kind of starting the podcast. And I don't know if it also includes when she unmasked herself as Your Fat Friend. It is very much about Aubrey. And I think what I've heard about it and what I get from the trailer is it is in the way that we always have kind of suggested her writing as something you can send to your friends and family. I think this documentary is going to fill the same gap. And actually, Aubrey shared on Instagram kind of like that so many people who've seen it so far have had conversations with their friends and family that they felt like they couldn't have before watching the documentary and seeing the process Aubrey goes through in the documentary.
I think that's a really good recommendation because so often if you send someone something to read, I mean, I'm partially dyslexic. For me to read something is a lot of effort. But, if you show me a trailer, if you show me a movie and like, hey, let's go watch this movie. And then, of course, you talk about it afterwards. That is a great way to open a conversation if you're trying to open a conversation.
Yeah.
Or don't know how to start a conversation.
Yeah. And I think it forces people, because it has visuals associated with
Yeah.
it, talking about fat people, it forces someone who may think that they're woke and they've got it all figured out and they're an ally. It may force them to confront some biases that they don't realize they have.
Yeah, because so often you see like, oh, I'm fine with fat people. Oh, but that's gross. That's too fat.
Yeah.
I mean, just to underscore what everyone said, Aubrey Gordon is probably one of the first writers whose material I read about fatness and existing as fat. It was the first time I was exposed to someone else writing down my thoughts and my experiences for me. And the charm that she has is that she delivers the material in a way that it never hit my barriers or guards that said this is something happening to someone else, right? So it came into my story very easily. So I can't recommend it enough for people who are maybe not used to thinking about this or try and hold it off at arm's length because it doesn't feel condemning or hurtful in a way that when you let it in, it hurts. There's some writing out there that it will hurt you when you let it in. It may be in a good way that will still help you grow. This is not one of those.
It's very empowering.
Yeah.
And I think it's also like, we've said this before, but it is very good kind of entry level material because I think, there's a lot of great fat liberation academia like writing out there, but like I can't send that to my mom. Really, that's too it's too high level. But so part of this conversation was my mom then talking to my aunt And one of my cousin's daughters, I guess, has gained a lot of weight. And she's like, she just doesn't look like how a 14-year-old girl should look. And my mom was like, what is a 14-year-old girl supposed to look like? And my aunt was just like, oh,
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
That's a long look. I remember before Dan's book came out, and you were worried about whether or not to suggest that she read it or
Yeah.
avoid it, and how to broach the subject. And then she did read it,
Yeah.
right? And then
We're unsure how much she read because she did bring it for Dan to sign, and she was in the process of reading it. And I don't know if she,
I think we can safely assume she got halfway.
at least halfway. I mean, she had her bookmark in there, and it was
Yeah,
pretty fun.
and granted, it's longish for a self-help book. It's much too long for that. But I figured I would only get one bite at the apple, so I just crammed everything I could in there.
well, go Trevor's mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still unclear what the release is going to be like for this in terms of theaters and streaming. But keep your eyes peeled. I think once there is a release date for either theatrical release or streaming, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
And if I may, if I want to leave you with one parting thing about Aubrey Gordon, her work is perfect for helping people, for addressing that awful thing that comes up with like, I don't have a problem with you because you're fat. I just want you to be healthy. She is she has like literally a book on just that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that she is the go-to person for that and answering that.
There's also in the pipeline Big Boys, which is kind of a gay fat coming of age story by Corey Sherman coming out, but it's still very much in the
It's like
the
festival run right
yeah.
now.
But
we really want to watch it. We don't have access to it yet. But
Yeah.
when that comes out either to streaming or locally, we're definitely going to check that out and hopefully get to talk about it too.
yeah.
Okay. Next up,
What's up?
we got
Yeah, a little bit of a downer.
Slightly less cheery story.
Very much in that calm moment in the movie where someone's driving and then like T-bone jump scare.
AI.
Yeah, AI.
Can you imagine?
AI, we're back on AI with the Washington Post, an article by Francis Vinal about how an AI chatbot for an eating disorder group
The National Eating Disorders Association.
started giving weight loss tips.
To people with eating disorders.
Yeah,
Yes.
so this is a self-help, like you're meant to call in and you can talk to somebody through your eating orders. It's, I think, similar in terms of the way that it helps people to a suicide hotline. Like,
Right.
you need help from somebody, you can call them anytime.
And
they
Nate-
have an AI chatbot.
Well, but if I may, a little
Yeah.
back on that. So they had actual people answering the phones.
Right.
And they decided, like, we can't possibly afford this. So they went over to
I think it's also
AI.
worth pointing out that around the time they made this decision, the workers were also trying to unionize.
Yeah.
That they say this is unrelated. It was just a
Yeah, it's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see this more and more. So anyway, they replaced it with an AI chatbot.
And they were phasing it, like, as of this month, it was meant to have been completely phased in, replacing the people on phone calls.
And instead, they pulled the plug.
And they pulled the plug because it was giving, a person struggling with an eating disorder weight loss tips.
Yeah.
Like specifically for, like, how good for you that you're looking on starting a healthier lifestyle by losing weight.
Yeah.
Things like that. And here's where you can find, these weight loss products. And the first step you should do is weigh yourself once a week.
Well, what's funny is that, see what the chatbot is doing, and I think this may be the only one good use for chat or for AI, is that it is a beautiful simulacrum to see the prejudices
Yes.
and downfall where we were failing people.
Yeah. It's learning from somewhere.
It's learning,
Yeah.
because it has perfectly emulated diet culture.
And I can say we predicted this
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
here on this show when we were talking about
Yeah.
DALL-E.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, we literally predicted that this, whatever biases exist in the mainstream on the internet, and let's just go out on a limb and say there are a lot of weird ass biases against fat people on the internet. It's going to be incorporated into any AI that depends on the internet for its input.
And see, that was the thing that's so insidious about it, because the advice that the chatbot is giving seems perfectly normal and reasonable for a perfectly normal and reasonable person.
Yeah.
But if you're fat or face an eating disorder, it is terrible idea. It's like it literally could be life threatening. And if you're just a normal person, it's just bad advice.
I mean, I would argue if you're a normal person, it is just what you're going to get if you just
If you
search.
Googled it, yeah.
And I think it's just insidious and disgusting to, as a organization working with people who are in dire straits and just kind
Life-threatening situations.
life-threatening,
Yeah.
just kind of at their most vulnerable, and be like, we don't really need people. I think AI can handle it. When it's like that, this is kind of like the stuff that it is being fed as prompts. People's really just like, it's the biggest blind spot of AI is like these really nuanced issues and feelings that is what AI is lacking.
And can we just talk about basic human empathy for a second? Like sometimes that's what you need on a call like this.
Yeah, you're not calling the suicide prevention hotline to get information on suicide.
Well,
Right.
I still feel like if you call a hotline, you're at the end of
Yeah.
the
that's my
road.
point. You're not
Yeah.
calling
I
for
mean,
information. You're calling for a way out, for sympathy, for empathy, for a lot of other things.
And I have to ask a question. We've said that it was giving sort of reasonable advice. The example I read in there to me did not sound like reasonable advice.
But what I'm saying is like,
No. Oh, no, like
that your doctor would give you. And it would be
I
wrong.
want to ask, is this a thing? It suggested to somebody that they buy calipers to
Yeah.
pinch their
Yeah.
fat.
Yeah.
Is that a standard weight loss practice?
What it is, it's a well, we're going to talk about that in a little while, but it is another way to measure, are you too fat? Let's look at whether you're too fat, which is the worst advice you can give to someone with an eating disorder.
I've never heard of that.
Oh,
That's so,
that's because you've spent so much time fighting BMI, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
I think also that is for really, I think high level eating disorder, like I think there are people with, who are at that stage of eating disorder where they do have calipers to measure because it is just such a visceral thing. And that is why this is so awful and insidious and disgusting.
As an example, Don, I think probably any mid to high level gym in this country has skinfold calipers to give you a fitness evaluation.
you are fucking me.
Nope. And the
I'm sorry for my colorful language, but that is fucked up.
Yep. I mean, you're not going to find it at Planet Fitness because, they'll give you pizza.
I think, I don't know. I'm glad. I know that there are other nonprofit helplines that are also trying to unionize. Hopefully they are successful and not replaced by AI, because this is just an insight into how grim that is.
And how stupidly misinformed it is.
And
Trying
I
to
can't
replace
imagine
people.
how I would feel if I called a helpline and got an AI.
Yeah.
I expect a person. I expect
And
a human being.
Well, and imagine that moment when you find out it's AI.
Yeah.
Because it could fool you for at least a good, I don't know,
That
10
would-
seconds, 10
Yeah.
minutes.
I
That
don't
would
think they're
piss
coming
me
out and
off.
saying like, this is a chat bot. Like, no, this is like Karen or whatever the name is.
Hi, my name is Karen.
Yeah, like exactly.
But care spelled
With
like care.
Keren. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. We're doing it.
We're going. Take us home, Scooty.
Fat Watch 2023.
Yay.
I think of Soren every time. It's my little chubby legs dangling.
We're going to have to go ride Soren over California at some point together.
We're going to have to try.
Well, you can take up one of the gondolas yourself.
It'll be fine. It's fine. We'll make it work.
What do we got today in Fat Watch?
I feel like I didn't. This is another kind of.
It's like vaguely downer.
Yeah.
We got a mixed bag here.
So I saw that. I shared this with everyone right when I saw the news that the AMA, the American Medical Association, had announced that basically BMI is flawed, and actually it has a very problematic racist history that has been very harmful, and I was very hopeful.
You got to get, that's major. The American Medical
Yeah.
Association is not only saying that BMI is flawed, but that it's racist.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, that is a huge out-of-the-box stand for
That's
them.
I have
great,
said
right?
It's great. It's great, right?
I have said this point blank to doctors coming at me with a BMI chart, right? And they look at me like I'm a crazy conspiracy theorist.
Exactly. Like they're this flat and BMI is wrong. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what happened, Trevor?
So, as you know, fat lib people in the medical field were digging more into this. It's like, oh, actually, everything is still terrible. And I thought that might be the case. I mean, I did get really excited, and there was a lot of buzz kind of on like FET, like, oh my God, this is huge. This is exciting. And Reagan Chastain, regular FET Watch feature, has broken down the problem with this statement and how actually it's not better. And in some ways it could actually be worse.
Yeah, that's what shocked me about it.
And it's not that the problem isn't that they decried BMI. It's
Yeah.
what they put in its place.
Well, it's and how they intend to use BMI being gone.
Yeah.
Like if BMI is no longer the measure after which point you can start prescribing weight loss medication, if that's gone, then
What do you
can-
use?
Yeah, then and is there any bottom floor? Do you prescribe that easier and more often to people?
So what they did was, okay, so you have to throw out BMI, but if you throw out BMI, how will you know when a person is fat?
Right. And so
Because it is absolutely critical that you know if a person is fat, because then you can know whether or not you can operate on them. You can know whether or not they deserve good health care. You have to know whether they're fat first, but you have to have an objective measure rather than just the schoolyard taunt that everybody else uses. So what they came up with is, apropos of our previous conversation, Dom, they came up with skin folds.
Oh, fuck.
They came up with waist circumference. Basically, because one of the problems with BMI is that every professional bodybuilder in the world would be classified as obese. So how can we still blame fat, but take the bodybuilders out of this category because it
Yeah.
ignores body composition and things like that?
ultimately, that's all they're doing.
That's all they're doing. They're just having a more accurate reading of calling you fat. And this is the problem that is always persistent, putting fat as cause for disease.
Right.
And my quick counter argument for that is, if fat caused disease, then liposuction should be the cure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't waist circumference in use before BMI really got popularized,
Absolutely.
like 20 years ago or whatever? And then because waist circumference is too inaccurate, but this BMI is a formula.
Do you know? Well, here's literally why. Waist circumference is one measurement. BMI is two. Because it's weight and height. It's weight and height as opposed to just girth.
Yeah.
It's two metrics rather than one. Therefore, it was literally, that was the thinking. Literally, it is more accurate because it has more dimensions in the formula.
So it's like this news that seems like, oh, this could actually be really good. No, it's like actually it's worse, and now fat will be more pathologized.
Well, and because think about it. If you remember like can you pinch more than an inch? That's the skin fold caliper, right? So the thing that's so nuts about this is BMI was at least had the veil of scientificity, right? It was vaguely scientific. But if you're trying to get at somebody, let's say with an eating disorder, it's like, oh, how much skin do you have there? Like it is so much more invasive to the psyche and so much more in one's human's experience, which I'm sure they consider a plus. Like now anybody can tell if they're fat.
It's a nightmare.
One of the things that Reagan points out in the article too, and this turns into like, how much can you read into, for instance, who's donating their money
Yes.
to the AMA, to the American Medical Association. So if you have, in this case, she references in the 2022 annual report that, is it Eli or Ellie Lilly? Eli Lilly?
Eli Lilly.
Eli Lilly, whose Wegovy competitor drug tirzepatide,
Sure.
is expected to get FDA approval as a weight loss drug this year and has been forecasted by Wall Street analysts to be the most profitable drug of all time, gave donations between $500,000 and $999,999 to the AMA, along with other people. It's like, at what point do you start connecting the dots a little bit? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's-
Well, as Aubrey Gordon points out in even the trailer of her documentary, the fitness wellness industry is worth trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
They got a lot of stuff. They got a lot of stuff to say.
yeah.
I think in the same way that I would recommend, like the Aubrey Gordon documentary and like, her writing to, your mom or friend or whatever, this is for your like nightmare coworker or like in-law who's like, well, actually, let's talk about the science, and be like, actually, read this by Reagan Chastain.
Yeah, Reagan Chastain is just a hero of mine for doing the really getting out the boots and wading into the bullshit of these scientific studies.
Yeah.
Because she has the background for it.
It's thorough and pithy. Like she
Yeah.
gets to the point and she makes her statement and then she gets out of it. Like you don't have to spend. And at the time, it just for whatever it's worth. If you're someone like me or Dan, like reading can be kind of a barrier. There is an audio voiceover
Yes.
of her article at the top of the page that you can listen to rather than read if you prefer.
Listen to this, Tyler. That seems like my
Yeah.
Yeah, what's interesting is what you find out is that with people like Tyler, they're really not interested in the scientific evidence. They're just interested in evidence that supports their opinion.
Fucking Tyler. Yeah. There's going to be one listener named Tyler out there. It's just like, what? But me? But I didn't do anything. All right. So
I
Sorry,
don't know.
Tyler.
We talked a lot about, I don't know, I guess bad things.
did we slime you, listener, by
Yeah.
accident? We're sorry about that. Let's talk about that. And let's talk about what happens. And maybe this has happened in our show before, where you listened and you were bracing for one of our discussions that you thought you were going to get slimed by us saying, mentioning a subject or some other bad article, and you were bracing for it. And then it turned out to be a good thing, something that was surprisingly
Yeah.
affirming about fatness or your own body. And what would we call that, dear listener?
Because Trevor introduced this idea to me by saying, like, what's the opposite of getting slimed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just to clarify and state it outright, we refer to it as sliming is when you are unexpectedly confronted with something that just makes you feel terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So like,
Usually feel terrible about yourself.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. Like literally, and it's shocking. It has to be so sudden and unexpected. Comes out of nowhere. Someone at the gym says, "Oh, wow! I can really tell that you're working hard to lose that fat." Something maybe not even as overt as that. And you just go like,
Yeah.
"What?"
A sudden awful depiction on a TV show you love.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what is that? You would know this, Trevor. What was the show where buckets of slime would fall from the sky?
Oh,
I mean,
Nickelodeon.
everything on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
I knew.
So the
Yeah.
point is, slimed in our context is that, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
Now, what is the opposite of slimed? What do we have examples of that? And
Well, I
more
think-
importantly, what would we call the
Yes.
opposite of being
I
slimed?
think Don should talk about the kind of little nugget that started this conversation.
Yeah. So recently I went to see the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Which I got to say, I really enjoyed.
I did too.
Right?
I loved it.
I was hoping it would be good. I was walking in there really wanting it to be good. And then I was so happy. Right?
Yeah.
It just gave everything I wanted.
It was
But
just fun.
there was one moment where I was like, "Oh no, okay." But I was ready for the slime.
Yeah.
They're in underground in this big ancient
They're in the
temple.
Underdark.
And then they're about to run down a tunnel, and suddenly you see these two glowing eyes from the tunnel, and you see this dragon head
Massive,
come out.
yeah.
And then the dragon forces his way out of the tunnel, and
then it
the rock
shatters.
breaks away because he's so fat.
It's a corpulent dragon.
It's a fat dragon. And immediately
And
I
you're
saw
just-
the fat dragon. I'm like, oh no.
You're
oh,
just
God.
waiting for the punchline that it's like, oh, you were afraid it was a dragon, but it's actually a fat dragon and it's not a threat.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect.
Yeah, it's somehow
And
sloppy, incompetent, or stupid.
It's not that.
It's not that.
The dragon is fun,
Yeah.
but dangerous.
Yeah,
right?
it kills, like they're being chased by bad guys already.
Yeah.
It kills all the bad guys on its way to try and kill them. And there's this whole extended chase scene. Now, they lean into the fatness in terms of like physical comedy.
Yes.
So it's not like totally gone, but he can
not
fly.
the way that makes the dragon seem incompetent
Right.
or less dangerous
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, it's funny in how the chase scene plays out, but it is still a competent, dangerous dragon.
But I would also say, like, just as a writer, it's a genius element to enter because they're now allowed to do this very dangerous scene in a children's movie, a movie that has to be acceptable for children and the whole family. But because the dragon is fat, it's less fearsome and terrible to children, I think. Right?
Yeah, they don't make the design of the dragon scary.
Yeah.
They make the danger the dragon presents the scary part.
I watched it with a couple kids, and the kids, when they saw the dragon's eyes and the head coming through, were going, "Oh no, oh no, oh no!" And then when you see the whole dragon, they went, "Oh yay!" Just the joy on their faces to watch it. It was a wonderful way to incorporate this.
Yeah, and they don't defeat the dragon
Yep.
because it was fat.
Nope.
Like the way they defeat the dragon is just clever and smart. It has nothing to do with its fatness. It's a feature, not a bug. Anyway.
And that the fatness, as it should be, is a design of the character, a feature of the character, not some sort of plot device or punchline.
And so because I was so braced for an awful moment, right, maybe I leaned into it a little bit more. I fell into it.
I'll tell you, Michael had the same experience.
I
as
was
you
so
and me.
happy.
Yeah.
And so for me, because it's such a positive experience that just wraps you up so quickly, my proposal for the opposite of slimed is candied.
Candied.
I felt candied afterwards. I felt shiny and sweet and happy.
I kind of like that.
I kind of like that. I like candied.
That is my.
In
that
both
is my
cases, you're left
nomination.
sticky, though. I'd like to point out.
Well, you know, it's fat.
Fat people love candy.
Yeah, not where I was going, but okay. Sure.
I've talked about another candied experience on the show where I was traveling to Kansas, was stuck in this incredibly small plane seat next to someone who was not being kind in the situation.
And man, you were going to Kansas. Like,
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to be here to begin with.
I'm sorry.
And then
Kansas
this
people.
woman, like 3 or 4 seats back, comes down, taps me on the shoulder, and says, "Honey, come down, sit by me. You're gonna be fine."
Yeah.
And she put the armrest up. She was the one who was alignment. Like that was a candy experience for me. I was well candied by the end of that.
I think I've told this story before on the podcast where I was flying Southwest. I was at Mathan. I had my second seat, and there was a woman who sat on the aisle. So I was on the window seat. I had my second seat as the middle seat, and she was on the aisle. And someone was trying to sit in the middle seat and making a big fuss about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, like this is my seat." It's like, "Oh, so you have 2 seats?" And the woman on the aisle defended me and shut the other person down.
That's
What'd they
awesome.
say? What'd she say?
She's like, "No, that's his second seat. He paid for it. You can find another seat." And like, there's plenty of other middle seats.
Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Candied, everyone.
Candied. I think mine, I have moments like that since it usually comes up very quickly in a conversation that I'm a chubby chaser because either my book comes up, well, how'd you write a book like that? Or, you're going to this place. Where are you going? Well, it's an event for, or what are you going to do there? Oh, I'm going to give this seminar on, so it comes up more than it might if I were just, a guy with a normal job and happen to like fat guys. So what I'm always, it's still even as many times as I've outed myself in a conversation, there's still, that what I call a speed bump.
Yeah.
Before and I'm going to say this now. And I'm going to say this now.
Yeah.
And it is that candied when they're like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
I remember one of the first times I was writing the book and I was at a cocktail party and I was saying I was writing this book. Oh, what's the book about? I'm like, okay, here we go. And I was talking to this very, very well-coiffed older lady, very thin, very chic. And she is watching me describe, that I talk about being attracted to fat people and that whole world and in behavioral models and things like that. And she's like, oh my goodness, I've never even thought of that. And she was just so open about it. And then she puts her hand out and grabs her husband's arm out of a neighboring conversation. She's like, Harvey, come over here. You have to hear what this man is writing about. It sounds fascinating. And like, okay, I love that. Now I have a seminar going. And it was, the way I described it, it was like telling someone, because usually when you talk about fat, you get some sort of level of either ick or sighing, or even if you're talking to fat people about fat, they don't necessarily want to hear about that. And this was just like, I was describing that I was writing a book about teaching pandas to play chess. How amazing.
I mean, I would watch that.
Yeah. It was just, she had like so not a horse in that race that you could listen to it completely open.
That's so cool.
I mean, I kind of had that when I went to your classes reading.
Yeah.
And I was talking to that I don't know, that woman. Do you remember her?
They're all women.
The older. I'm gonna say older.
Oh, maybe. Oh, I know who you were talking to. You were long dark hair.
Yeah.
Right? You were talking to. I don't think I want to say her name.
Edna. Her name was Edna.
Her name was Edna, and no, she has a very interesting history. And the reason she knows about this is she's very familiar with systems of oppression, having come from South Africa.
Oh.
Yeah, that'll do it.
I feel like now that I talk about fat liberation more, I am just always surprised. I'm always like waiting for people to be like, oh, what's it? Unhealthy, man. And I'm always surprised at like when you really break down, systematic oppression and then intersectionality and just, how these things layer on top of each other. People are just so like, wow, like they really get it. And so often I feel like when you are just like a human being breaking down these issues, and I think especially what she got was because I was talking about, the impact of like, women of color and anti-fat bias. And the fact that like I was talking about these things, even though like I'm not a woman, I'm not someone of color.
There has been ground prepared in the last 3 to 5 years and it's part of the benefit of intersectionality, because if you can it's not that these same prejudices or oppressions are the same. That's not it. But if the ground has been prepared for one thing, like if you understand systematic racism, it isn't so far a leap for you to understand systematic size oppression.
Yeah. So why is this important, right? I want to throw this out. I think words really matter, right? The term slimed is something that helps people understand how it feels when that sliming moment happens.
It's very evocative.
It's evocative, it's visceral, and people can immediately translate it to themselves. So for me, slimed is very helpful to explain the experience to people who haven't shared the experience, okay? But now, candied, if this is the word we're going to use, I think it's a less important word for other people and a more important word for myself.
Definitely.
Because it becomes a reminder of change happens, right?
Yeah.
That I am not existing in the same world I existed in 20 years ago, where the fat dragon would have been accompanied probably with a trombone, slide whistle at some point.
A fart.
A fart. Definitely a fart.
Or he had to be eating something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I recall correctly, this dragon did eat something.
Well, he's a dragon. He eats many things.
Well, it was people. I mean, it was literally
not
doing what any
He's
dragon
eating
would do.
people. But the point is, if this word exists, right, it means that good things come from this too, right?
And yeah.
So that's why it's important for this word to exist.
And
right?
for me, I think it's also helpful in a way of kind of balancing the way that you process life. And you're gonna take those moments that you were slimed and start adding them up to create the narrative of life slimes me all the time, which may or may not be true, but you're gonna remember them no matter what. And if you can start building up the candied moments too, in a way that's memorable because it's the word candied, and what else do you use that for?
Yeah.
It's a counterweight on the scales.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to help us find balance.
Well, and I also think that, using this word, it might be a way to talk about allyship.
Yes.
Is if you've candied someone. And like allyship, you don't get to be...
Oh, I like that.
But if you think about it, see, like, I would never give the advice, so go out and candy someone. That's not quite it. Because like sliming... you like that, don't you?
I'm sorry, I just suddenly looked over and I just saw Trevor with a fork and knife. Very excited.
Because in Trevor's book, he had a plan to have somebody die by being dropped in molten sugar, right?
Yeah.
And so there was
candy.
in my brain, it was like murder. It was like, go candy someone.
Yeah, so don't do that so much. But what I was thinking is, it like slime, the where that lives is in the listener, in the person you're talking to, because they're the person who gets to experience slimed or candied. No one who is slimed you usually intends to slime you. It's just their own ignorance. And similarly, you're probably not going to be deliberately able to candy someone, because you'll probably end up sliming them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm going to compliment you on your weight loss. That is not being candied.
No, yeah.
So you won't, it's not like something you can go out and do, chasers or allies. It's more like, again, as you said, Don, it kind of lives with the listener.
Yeah. It's to remind us that there are good moments as well as bad, because sometimes it can be really easy to live in the bad moments.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's a distinction too between slimed and candied, which is that slimed is, I think, most intensely the unexpected part of it.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
just out of nowhere. It slams you over the face.
Like that Nickelodeon show.
Right. Whereas Candied, I think, is different in that something happens to make you think you're about to be
Yeah.
slimed. And you're expecting it, and it doesn't happen that way.
Well, if one is to get very literal about the metaphor, slimed is having slime dumped over you. Candied is being pulled out and having a crystalline sugar texture.
Yeah.
You're being pulled out of this candy sweet syrup.
And
So-
now you're delicious.
So words matter, people.
Yeah.
When you've been slimed, you will recognize it. But when you get candied, you have to hold on to that sometimes.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm curious if listeners, now that they know about being candied, have any stories of.
Or if you
tales
have
of being
another
candied.
word that you would suggest is a better
Yeah.
choice than candied, we'd
Yeah.
love to hear it.
First time I was candied.
That was awesome.
I was talking to Dan at one point, but after our call, saying because I couldn't think of a good verb, but I was thinking of the entire concept of it, like it's a piñata because you're ready, you're in this place of like, oh, I'm gonna have to like defend myself and attack. And then we got into a really exhausting conversation about piñatas.
You're welcome.
No, that would
because
never
it's
happen.
full of candy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Let us know if you've been candied or if you
can
have
be-
ideas about alternative terms.
Yeah. Candied could also
yeah.
mean being showered in candy.
Yes.
Like a piñata. Shut up, Dan.
Yeah,
All right.
That was a whole thing.
Do we have a tip?
We do have a tip.
We do.
We're on
And
a
this
tip
is
roll.
Yeah, this is an exciting tip. So, and I will point out, we talked about Fat Kid Yoga Club in the past, which is no more. But on Twitter, I saw there is a new Fat Yoga class, which is it's online and in person. It's taught by Jeff Manrique. It's called Bear, Chair, and Bed Yoga. So it is.
Say that again. Bear, chair, and bed yoga.
Yes. So yoga classes that you can either do in a chair or from bed, which I think is so
Sounds
great.
Yeah.
And I like that it is hybrid classes. So the studio is in New York.
But by hybrid, you mean it's also available online.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's just so exciting. And I saw some cool, like I saw it because people were retweeting the pictures of all these fat guys doing yoga.
Yeah.
But it's so they're online and in person, $25, but it's a sliding scale, pay what you can. And the physical location also has personal training, haircuts, sound healing. They do other events.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So you can get more information about them and all the work they're doing at www.manriquewellness.com. That's MANRIQUE wellness.com.
All right. We've been warned. We've been pre-warned about the bit for today.
No, you
Is that
haven't.
for this episode? Or
That
next
is for the
episode?
next episode.
Okay. Then I have no idea what this is going to be.
Well, since today's episode dealt with pleasant surprises and getting candied, all of our bits today involve good news that have come out over the past year that we probably haven't heard of.
Wow.
That hopefully each of them will candy you a little bit. Well, they're good, so you probably won't get candied, but they're good news. All right. Scientists have figured out how to make a new type of clean fuel by collecting carbon dioxide from the air, combining it with waste plastics, and what third ingredient?
Candy?
1, sunlight. 2, waste paper. 3, seawater. Or 4, thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
Wait, so the first two ingredients are.
It is carbon dioxide from the air, free, loose carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
Waste plastics,
Okay.
and something else.
Carbon dioxide. And this is fuel for
This is fuel.
for cars kind
Yes.
of fuel. Okay. I mean, I'm going to say seawater because I feel like there should be some kind of liquid in there. I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
We got one for
It
seawater.
makes a tasty shake.
I'm going to say sunlight just to be different.
Okay.
I was thinking sunlight too.
All right. Well, the correct answer is, in fact, sunlight.
Yay!
Cambridge University researchers have demonstrated how carbon dioxide can be captured from industrial processes or even directly from the air and transformed into clean, sustainable fuels using just the energy from the sun. This is a huge deal. They figured out how to do it in the past using carbon that had been collected from the air, but not free-floating air because there's so many other types of things in there. So by literally introducing waste plastic into the process, they figured out a way to collect carbon dioxide from the air
Oh, I see.
to clean the air.
Oh, like
that
a
we
hydride.
breathe.
That's
Really impressive. It has huge potential.
I wish I'd thought of that.
Now, with all these things, we're not there yet, but these are potential things that may change the world. So, NASA and Boeing have unveiled the plane they hope will save the Earth. Working with NASA, as part of a $725 million agreement, Boeing will build, test, and fly a full-scale demonstrator aircraft with extra-long, thin wings stabilized by diagonal struts known as a transonic truss-based wing concept. How will it save the world? 1, it can enter orbit. 2, massively reduced fuel use and emissions. 3, 50% faster planes. Or 4, can carry 1.5 more weight than equivalent planes.
There's a pun to be made here about carrying more weight will save the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of these will have ways they could save the world in different ways.
I'm going to say, I mean, some of them are kind of interconnected. Like,
Yeah, I'm going with the weight.
The weight?
I think weight.
1.5 weight?
I'm trying to think of like how having a different wing structure would affect a plane. And
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
weight would be, that's where I would go with it.
Okay.
I'm also going to say wait.
Oh, we are a weight-centric podcast, so I guess I
No.
should be unsurprised. But in fact, the real answer is massively reduced fuel use and emissions.
Okay.
Basically what they're
Because
saying
it's
is,
lighter. Yeah.
Yeah, it's lighter, and by creating these structures within the wings, literally shaping the wings and constructing the inside of them differently, they think that this plane will help us reach 0% aviation emissions by 2050.
0%.
That is the goal. That is currently the goal set out by the Paris Accords.
That's a glider. Okay.
I mean, how
do you power the flight?
how do you get up? How do you get up there?
Well, part of it is
okay.
it involves new fuels.
Yeah, all right,
it
all right.
involves lots of different things. So it's-
Having lived here, I'm in favor of saving the planet. Yeah.
all right, English media is going crazy over the groundsel. I don't know the pronunciation of that.
That's good enough.
It's a small, cheery, daisy-like flower that grows only in York. What makes the York groundsel so special? 1, its pollen has been shown to potentially cure shingles. 2, this is the first year it's been this is the first year it's existed since it went extinct in 1991. It has been 3, it has been found to be the oldest existing plant species still alive. Or 4, it has been hybridized with human DNA and produces human enzymes.
What?
I'm going to go that it's back from extinction.
Back from extinction. We got 1 for back from extinction.
I will also say back from extinction.
Okay.
Well, given that our points are all tied right now, I have to say back from extinction. It's the only way to play the game.
Well, you are all correct.
Yay!
So this flower went extinct back in 1991. There just happened to be a couple of potted plants of it in New
my
York
God.
University.
New York
University.
in America.
In America.
Okay.
They saved those seeds off of that and then stored them in the Millennium Vault.
which is
right?
in York.
No, which is somewhere. I don't know
Okay,
where.
okay.
But basically, the seeds in the Millennium Vault have an expiration date, right? So the expiration date for these groundsels were coming up, and they were like, they tried planting a few of them, none of them grew, so they thought it was a lost cause. So they took the last 100 seeds that existed from the vault, planted them in York.
And a giant beanstalk grew.
98 of the 100 seeds they planted germinated, which
Oh, wow.
it's like a freaking Hanukkah miracle. Like that is far beyond what anyone expected.
Wow.
And so this is the first year that thousands of these flowers have been replanted in their native home.
Wow.
Which is York.
Yeah, which is York.
Yay. How lovely.
So, dear listener, I hope some of these stories have candied you. Do you have some candy stories you'd like to share with us?
Yeah.
Trevor, where can they do that?
Well, we're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPodcast. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars there. Leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, everywhere. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/BigFatGayPod. See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you're at a party. There's a piñata. It's a big old dragon piñata, chubby dragon, and it's your turn, and you're swinging and you're hitting. and you're going and just crack, and then it's us. We're inside and we're little dressed as candy, hee hee, but we're gonna eat you because this candy bites back, baby. So
watch out.